I didn't pick it up today because my car had too much stuff in it when it was
Call the regular meeting to order. Call roll.
Mayor Querom.
Here.
Councilmember Swanson. Here. Mabry.
Here.
Gomez.
Here.
Newman.
Here. Stand and join us in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start off tonight. Anybody have public comments? Okay, we do have a public hearing tonight. This is a public hearing on the closing of a CDBG grant, which was the sewer construction lining project that was completed recently. So, Austin? He's masked. I can't you look like that. They say
He's Austin. The mics don't work, unfortunately.
No.
Just say just your name.
Talk
Austin.
loud.
So thank you again. My name is Austin Taylor with North Central Council of Governments. So very briefly, starting back from 2017 to now, the city was successful in implementing a block grant. So that grant fund came from the Illinois Department of Commerce. It was a block grant / combination revolving loan fund that the city had. So the city coordinated with NCIDG to submit an application back in the fall. They were successful in awarding the funds, receiving the funds. That grant amount was $500,000, and it was to construct sewer replacement and relining. So a few quick details just to close out the project for PCO. The project engineer was Chamlin and Associates. The project area was along 2 public alleyways. You can see the first alleyway was between First Street and Pleasant Street, running from Clark to Putnam. The second public alleyway was between Main Street and Pleasant Street, running from Warren to Putnam. Total public infrastructure dollars was $664,608.12. And of that, the city again received $500,000 in grant funds. The remaining, the city leveraged with local funds for $164,608.12. Any questions or comments? So this project complied with the Illinois Community Development Assistance Program. It funded public infrastructure to meet the needs of low to moderate income. So if you remember back in 2017, going through the income survey, so of the $500,000 in grant funds, based on the income survey, $398,250 went to low to moderate income individuals. And as far as I believe, that rounds out the closing of the infrastructure project.
And that was sanitary.
Yes.
Sanitary sewer. Do you know how much of the sewer? I'm just curious how much of it was lined and how much of it was replaced. Was there more replacement, more lining?
I think one alleyway was completely replaced and one alleyway was completely lined. And I don't remember which was which. But the relining came from some existing fiber optics that were compromising the replacement of. So, I also have a sign-in sheet. Can I circulate that?
Okay.
Anybody have any questions? Anyone in the audience here? Anyone else? All right. Is that it, Austin?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll go ahead and close out the public hearing. And we'll now go to Commissioner Newman for the minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve the minutes from our regular council meeting on October 5th, 2020.
Second.
Motion's been second. Comments? Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mabry.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Mayor Querem.
Aye. I'll go to approve invoices and city clerk notes.
In the Department of Accounts and Finances for this period, we have bills totaling $92,229.84. In the Department of Streets and Public Improvements, we have invoices totaling $336,952.88. In the Department of Public Safety, we have invoices totaling $267,983.75. And in the Department of Public Property and Utilities, we have invoices totaling $1,205,094.65. Mayor, all council members present have confirmed their reviews of all invoices and now are submitted for disposition.
I move that we approve the invoices as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. Comments? Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mabry.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Mayor Querem.
Aye. We'll go to regular business and city clerk notes.
Next on the agenda is Resolution R-20-028. This is a resolution committing funds in support of an itef grant for a pedestrian access improvement project on Main Street. Mayor, all council members have reviewed this resolution and it is submitted for disposition.
I move that we approve resolution R-20-028.
Second.
Motion and second. I'll turn it over to Teresa.
And I'll ask Austin to step in where questions may come up that's specific to this and previous projects that we're dealing with this. So, basically what you have in front of you, you have a larger map, that's actually the project area, and then you have a cost sheet, and these are very rough for the cost sheet. So, but basically this is the itef grant, which is the Illinois Department of Transportation's Transportation Enhancement Program. So what this is supposed to do is improve pedestrian access, bicycle access to specific areas in the community in terms of economic development and safety needs and stuff like that. So what you have in front of you is a small portion of, if you remember, a project that was submitted about 2017. I'm going back and digging through files now. But it was a much larger project in the millions, I believe. So what they decided to do is with IDOT indicating the funds are available for this, they've broken a smaller section off. So what they're looking at doing is going from about Bex north, I'm getting the lingo down here, Bex north up to about Shell. So you can get safely across those intersections, you've got turn lanes, you've got a lot of traffic going through there, there's not a lot of sidewalks up there. So this is adding significant amount of sidewalks up in that direction. Now what the hope is, with this program, now you also have, IDOT has programs, IDNR has programs, so this is just a small link to get out to, eventually, the county city park or city county park?
City county.
So this is the economic arm, and the next part can be more of a recreational section of that trail. So you have in front of you the section there, and what I basically had Shamlin do, because we had to break out the project, to break it down a little bit more, because I couldn't look at $1 million project, it was a little bit too much. So when they started looking at a path on both sides of the road, it was going to be even more expensive. So I said to Dean, and I think it's Casey at Shamlin, can we look at a path that's going to least impact utilities, you know, it's something that's going to cut down on those costs, because that can get expensive. So this was the route that came up that would be the most feasible. They're going to do some more due diligence on getting photos of people on bikes out there. Letters of support are coming in to me now for this. So basically, that's the project in a nutshell. It's an 80-20 split for what's the preliminary engineering utility relocation, but 50% for right-of-way. So there's a little bit of a difference in the split, but an 80-20 grant is kind of almost unheard of still in the grant world. You don't see too many of them. It's usually a 50-50, but obviously you see the total project cost is kind of a little bit scary. So the bike committee is really, I will say, They are very excited about the project, they're very excited about all of their projects. So, what I'd like to see is if we have to commit so much cash, I'd also like to make sure we can submit in kind as much as we possibly can. Because if you look at the list of job duties on there, there's some of that stuff that we could probably do with city assistance. So, and then the contingency that's listed on there, we can't include a contingency at the bottom, so either that'll have to be removed or funneled somewhere up top. So. There might still be some fluctuations in the cost. We wouldn't know about this until January, which means the awards, Austin, probably wouldn't be even available until spring, somewhere in there.
Yes, low.
Yeah. So, it would be next fiscal year. It's one of those things you have to keep on it's coming.
That last ITEP grant we tried was 2 years ago, I think, wasn't it, Austin, from the truck stop all the way out to the city county park?
That was IDNR.
That was IDNR.
But the city did try an ITEP, I believe,
My stuff shows 2017.
and I believe it was a Main Street revitalization.
Mhm.
I don't remember if it was the north end or the south end.
And it included the depot. as well.
Right, yeah, we did
Yeah.
not, right, we did not get that. Yeah, that's right. And you can do the ITEP grant, we can apply for that every 2 years.
Yes.
Well, that IDNR grant that we worked on 2 years ago, that was over $1 million. They put a sidewalk from the truck stop out to City County Park. A lot of utilities and issues along that route, but this one here doesn't look like there's many concerns as far as utilities are concerned.
And I think some of the hiccups with the IDNR grant going up to the park was a little bit of a push and pull between IDNR and IDOT, and I think those have been resolved now. So if at some point we want to go for that extended trail.
And this is a 10-foot wide
Yeah,
sidewalk.
10 foot, yeah,
Concrete.
Sounds great.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is.
it is.
You know, and I didn't specifically ask Dean on the cost with the concrete, but I'm sure he's factored in the increased cost in cement lately, so.
Comments?
Sounds like a good project. You know, obviously, we would not be spending this kind of money if we couldn't get the 80%, so it's kind of like, we gotta try.
That's,
So.
that's right. I mean, that's a lot of money. I mean, about 20%, again, some of it could be in kind, so we'll get that cost out.
I'll try to get as creative as possible, but, you know, I'm impressed with the committees that have been set up for even these types of projects too. They are committed and they're working hard, and Ray's been at a couple of them, they're excited.
All right, no further comments. Motion has been seconded, so call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mavry.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
David.
Aye.
Mayor Querem.
Aye.
Next on the agenda is Resolution R-20-029. This is a resolution authorizing the purchases of a fire engine, a squad responder vehicle, and a brush truck. Mayor, all council members have reviewed this ordinance, and it is, actually it's an ordinance, isn't it?
Nope.
Yeah. It's actually an ordinance.
Oh.
I think I wrote it down wrong. Let me just see what the paperwork says.
Resolution.
On both the document and
Okay.
agenda.
I'm sorry, it's supposed to be an ordinance. Can we proceed, John?
We'll try to be better not to.
Really?
Ordinances are supposed to be in writing, which it is, but it's not identified as an ordinance.
Yeah, okay.
So we will table.
I guess.
Table this motion to our next meeting.
All right.
Do you want to make it? We have to make a
Was this
motion
the
on it?
second reading, Pete?
No, it's first reading.
Oh.
I don't know why we can't do a first reading, because we can.
Oh, because the second reading is the one that matters.
Yeah, well, you can make changes to the ordinance after the first reading. So I would see no reason not to renumber it and do the first reading voting.
Yeah, okay.
Can we do that
Number
now?
015.
What number are we on?
We would be,
Well, the next ordinance is 014, so we can do 015.
You would think.
No, you know what? This is an ordinance. This is a resolution. This is a resolution.
It's been resolved.
John, I'm glad we had this conversation.
Yeah. Enjoyed it.
Okay, pretend I'm not here, so that's the resolution. Where am I in this whole process?
Ask for a motion.
I guess all council members have reviewed this resolution, and it is submitted for disposition.
I move that we approve resolution R-20-029.
Second.
Motion's been second. Comments?
Is there a little discussion as
Yeah,
far as?
absolutely.
Good, please.
Yep.
Go ahead, Teresa, when they met, last time, we agreed to the one truck, and now we're putting the other two trucks on there. So you must have the financing available for those other two vehicles?
No, I'm glad you brought that up. The way this is worded, and I talked with Pete a little bit about this and the mayor, and it reads that we're committing to all of those at this point in time. Really, all it's doing is keeping that flexibility so that if times are right and funding becomes available, we can move forward with those other ones as well. But for the engine is what we're really focusing on in the last meeting, so.
And
that's
the
one we're
resolution
really
doesn't have
moving
an
forward.
end date, so it
Yeah.
just keeps it open.
So we'll get a second look at this, the other two trucks, if we need to start the council, at least get it okay, we won't just find out they were ordered.
The resolution is written so that you can move forward on that stuff when it's right for the city.
And it comes before the council.
When I did the transcription from the tape, it sounded as though we had, at least I interpreted, that there was a consensus to move forward with all three vehicles, but the engine would be the first one. Okay?
Very good.
Any other comments? Motion's been second. Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mabry.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Mayor Querem.
Aye.
Next on the agenda is an ordinance O-20-014. This ordinance is amending city code to establish a tree committee, or to establish rules for tree committee membership. This is the first reading, and Mayor, all council members have reviewed this ordinance, and it's submitted for disposition.
I move that we advance ordinance O-20-014 to the second reading.
Second.
Motion's been second. So we have a current ordinance that says, is it 5, or all department heads and 3? So we're changing it for up to 7 committees and up to 7 committee members. And then if this passes in 2 weeks, we'll have the second reading, and at which time we'll also set the tree committee. Any comments? The motion's been second. Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mabry.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Mayor Querem.
Aye. Thank you, Pete. I'll go to the manager's report.
Okay, before I forget, what I was almost going to say was on the topic of the itef grant is we are looking for letters of support. So if you're involved in an organization or you as a resident are supportive of this project and you want to show your support of the project, not financially necessarily unless you're wanting to be philanthropic, but if you're supportive of the project, reach out to me and we can get you a template to use for a letter of support for it, or your service organization or anybody. Like the health department would be a great one too. So just reach out to me and I'll get you a template. I was hoping to have the financial report from Lauterbach for August. Last one I have is July. They did not have August ready yet. So I'm going to do a little modification, at least so I have some numbers to give to you guys. I wanted to pull the sales tax numbers because we haven't brought those up for a little bit. And looking at the local shares state use tax, that's the one that you're going to start capturing your online sales. And I noted a couple months ago that there was a trend that was going up, which shouldn't surprise everybody with what's going on. Steadily since May, it's been going up. Now we're looking at about an $8,000 to $9,000 increase each month on that collection. So that's great. And that's since July and August, we've seen an $8,000 to $9,000 increase each month. So that's a extra good thing to see happening. The sales tax for what we just collected, which would actually be July's numbers, we're up again, so we're seeing about a $9,000 increase from last year's numbers there, so that's good. And obviously that trickles down to the 0.25% increase for the streets projects too, about a $3,000 increase from last year's numbers. So last year's numbers in October was the first month that we were starting to capture those numbers. So we're up 3,000 from last year's, so that's pretty good. Still trending up, that's good. Any questions on that stuff? I started to look into some of the gaming taxes that we were collecting. We saw a break in those. Those are actually really increasing. So whether it's good or bad, it's helping. And a couple of the new cannabis tax, I wasn't seeing a huge increase there or anything either. So, but some of them they're doing pretty good. Cures money, I'll give you an update on that. As you've probably heard me talk about, with our allotment of about $316,000 for the city. Each month I'm trying to set up a reimbursement from the state based on any expenses that are COVID related to the city. Our first installment I submitted a couple weeks ago. I already got that back and we got 100% of the money back. So that was good. That was my test run to make sure how it was going to work. So each month, and I'll probably be starting it this week after bills get paid here, and do the next submittal, and it'll be a little bit larger than the last month. So I'm anticipating one way or another to capture all of our allocation. In November, they will ask me for a report on where we're at with our spending and what we anticipate to spend further, and if we're going to need more. So I'm anticipating it to be all spent, so that's good.
I just would make a comment. It's good to hear on the use tax, the internet, sales tax revenue that we're getting, and that's growing. I just want to remind everybody to shop Princeton first. Support Princeton merchants and our brick and mortars and the families that live here in town. So continue to shop Princeton first and foremost.
Yeah.
Teresa, did you say that you're getting quick approvals, turnaround time on these submissions to the state of Illinois?
It wasn't bad actually. I had one kickback and it was a date, because I should have said the end date was December 31st, because that's the last time you can submit money. And it was actually your subscription for IT related stuff. So I had to go and fix that quick, and then it was maybe a 5-day turnaround from there. So
the funds show up soon thereafter?
Yeah.
Oh.
They give you, it's all setting up in a portal, and you can see when it's being released, and so yeah, it's knock on wood. I'm not waiting until the last minute to submit though. So.
I could ask Teresa a quick question. How about the program I know it's a separate program where those businesses could apply for up to $25,000. Now 5 of those were approved, but did those folks actually ever get their money from the state?
Not all 5 were approved, only 2 were approved.
2.
Yeah, so Bruce Jewelers and Jillian's were approved. So now they have to go through the process of submitting their bills for the coming up to 2 months or 3 months. So once they submit bills and all of that, then they get reimbursed. So actually the city gets that money, and then we have to reimburse the business.
So we'll know when that comes. Okay, very good, thank you.
There's a couple of new programs coming out for economic development too, that I'm going to touch base with actually MCICG, and see if we can get those moving, because they're strictly for businesses, so.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions? Is that it? Okay, thanks. Under mayor report, got on here, we've been receiving concerns from several residents, and we have over the years, but in the last year or so, it seems to me we've received more about residents within the city limits having ducks, chickens, and geese on their property. And there's different ideas along this, the sound, the noise, smell, and so on. And so I have on here a discussion on chickens, ducks, and geese in residential areas, and whether or not whether or not an ordinance should be considered disallowing them. So I just going to put it out there and just get everybody's thoughts if you want to share them. And apparently, according to John, this has to come from the Plan Commission.
I think it can be generated at City Council or Plan Commission, isn't it, Pete?
Well, I think the way we had talked, it probably should have, since it's a land use, a change or
Yeah,
or
to the
that
zoning
should probably
ordinance.
originate in the zoning, or planning commission in order, and then passed on to the council for approval.
Do you wanna have something passed to disallow them, is that what you're thinking, Joel?
It kind of depends on how this discussion goes.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but right now, I don't think they're allowed under the zoning code.
Correct.
So, do you really need to do anything to disallow something that's already disallowed?
The thing is, under the public health section of the city code, it makes reference to making sure that your chickens and geese are penned or put in,
It can't
on
be
your
outside,
property.
yeah.
So it's ambiguous to the public as to what's really expected, I think. And I think the intent here is to do something definitive, that's clearer, that people understand.
Because in my, like I say, in my estimation, it's not allowed at this point, but being more clear certainly is never a bad thing.
How many are out there? How many residents do we think are doing this?
I'm guessing at this point we probably have, and it's really hard to say
I know.
because some people are excellent at concealing them. I'm thinking that we probably have 15 to 20 properties that have them, and it's growing. And this last summer, we've received several calls this last summer for the smell, and some people have decided that they'll go ahead and get roosters, and so at 4 a.m. they're getting wake-up calls. And people are letting the fowl go into the neighborhood and just run around. And it's getting to the point where, you know, at one point it might have been charming, and now it's a nuisance. So that's why I think the public is asking for some clarity as to what we allow here.
Mayor, if I could ask, now, they'll tell me what's that, Pete, so when you do get a person, voicing concerns and complaints, then they tell you where they're at, do you go see the people that have the chickens, or how do you?
Not always, because this is a problem bigger than I can handle right now.
Okay.
Because what do I tell them?
We have contacted.
Because our code says two things.
Yeah, we did let Tom know, and he did. I think, did you send somebody out, or the police went out and checked on at least one of them tonight?
Yeah, they had ducks.
Yeah.
Well, I visited two, places that had, two residences that had chickens, and they were clean and neat, and they were discreetly in the backyard or the side yard. One gentleman has 5 chickens, and he just, you know, he really enjoys his chickens, and it was just as clean and neat as could be. And the other person is a elementary school teacher that has like 4 that she brought home from a school project, and she adopted them. And so, you know, both cases are clean and neat and no odor whatsoever. It's unfortunate that we've got some people that, and I know I saw one this summer on Pleasant Street where they had their whole front yard with chicken wire, and the animals were out there in the front yard. So I wish we could figure out a way to have a compromise in the whole thing, where maybe we could, if the council would decide that they would like to limit the number of chickens, and I know we don't have time to go out and count chickens, I got that figured out, but whether they would be only in the backyard and only 5 or less chickens or something like that, and I just think unfortunately, it's just a few people that have caused the grief on this, because otherwise the chicken coops I saw were very well maintained, and there's some value to the understanding of what they were trying to do there. So I'm leaning towards, and again, I know we don't have time to enforce certain things like that, but I just wonder if there's a compromise. And have you checked with any other communities in the area with what they've done?
Over the years, I've checked with probably 25 communities through the network that I belong to. I would say that it's probably about 60-40 against chickens. I will state that the city of Washington, Illinois recently passed an ordinance, I think it was in June or July, to permit chickens. And by August or September, they passed another ordinance to ban them. So I'm sure each community is going to have its own experiences that kind of guide whether to continue with these uses or not. But again, I think we just have to be fair to the citizens and be clear on if we're going to allow them, and if so, what the rules are going to be, or disallow them altogether.
I'm curious, Ray, did you by chance talk to any of the neighbors?
I did. So I talked to a neighbor immediately adjacent to it, and cause I thought it was their chickens, and she said, no, that's my neighbor's chickens. And so she said, but man, she said they've been great. She said they have a rooster, but the rooster, somehow they put the rooster in an area that it doesn't crow, but they had one that was noisier, and that one went and ended up as chicken soup. But anyway, so there are some issues there. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the rooster can cause trouble. And then at the other house, I talked with a neighbor about a week before that, and they had no problem. But again, those were two exemplary examples of people that their coops were clean and neat, and they really didn't know I was coming. I went to the door and talked to them, and they were real proud of how they maintained. But then I saw the exact opposite this summer when, again, the area I talked about on Pleasant Street, it was all, the front yard was completely fenced in with chicken wire, and I hate to see that out front. I mean, that's just, I don't think that's.
Well, there's a couple with the backyards that are, the grass is all gone because of all the chicken runs.
Sure.
And then they're just pooping everywhere, so.
You know, for years, we would go down Hudson Street, and the first house on Hudson, on the new Hudson Street, those folks there, they had chickens in their garden area, and, you know, those intermingled right with new housing.
Mhm.
So again, it's just unfortunate we have to curtail something that would have been a good thing if we would have been able to keep a little more control over it. And again, I know we don't have, that's not in our focus right now, so.
I cannot share any of that with you.
Sure.
It's a bad idea.
Sure.
I would never, in my wildest dreams, think that I could move into a city, a municipality, and have chickens living next door to me or down the street from me.
Well, and you have to understand too, there are subdivision ordinances, the subdivisions have covenants, so certain subdivisions don't allow chickens and different birds. So.
I think we should be strongly against it. If you want to have an animal in your house in the city, it could either be a dog or a cat.
Sure.
And that, I think, would be the extent of it.
Could be a pig.
I wouldn't like that either,
Those
frankly,
little pigs.
but no. But again, in terms of tonight's discussion, I
Sure.
am totally 100% against
I
it.
respect that.
You know, I mean, out of the 15 or 20 that exist, and you talk to Sue, and that's great, but.
Sure.
And we've also had experience, I think, and I think that Pete kind of acknowledged that if once you open the door, look out.
Sure.
It's gonna be chaos.
I respect that, Jerry.
Yeah, thank you.
Geraldine, did you want to say something on this matter? I'll let you,
I didn't know how much of the floor you accept on this, but one of the worst
Leave your
side
name.
effects are rats.
leave your name.
Oh, Geraldine Woodley.
Thank you.
One of the worst side effects of having the chickens is rats. I have friends that live in areas where the neighbors have them, and that's the biggest problem, because there's so much food around. And if you talk to people in Chicago, they rate really high with rats, and that's one of the reasons.
Yeah. Thanks. Anybody else from the audience? Any further comments?
So,
Thoughts?
I'm sorry, John said that we have something on the books now that says you can't, but yet there's something else on the books that kind of implies, okay.
What we're saying is that we're silent on the use, except in the chapter that talks about public health and safety, not land use, but public health and safety. And so, if I were a citizen looking up whether I can have chickens or not, it's somewhat implicit in this public safety section that I have to keep my chickens penned. Well, that kind of tells me I can have them.
Yeah.
But there's nothing in the land use that allows, it doesn't say no, but it doesn't say yes. And because we're not home rule, I think it is, John, isn't it?
If you look at our chart in the zoning code, there's that chart, you know, for permitted and special uses. And if you go through all the residential choices, it's nowhere is it a permitted or a special use to have livestock basically within the city. So they're not allowed because they're not in there, it's allowed special or permitted uses. And if you look down through the whole chart, the only place where agricultural activities, which I would think raising a livestock is, the only place that's allowed is an agriculturally zoned property.
Correct.
Actually, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you're the director of the health department. Do you have any?
One of the things that actually, that some people have had chickens before is something that's called Campylobacter, which is something that they get, some kind of disease when people get it from chickens. And once they bring them into their home, they'll wash them properly and then they go ahead and use it, and they catch this disease there. But there has been some cases, not very many over the years. One of the other things that Real didn't mention was obviously the rats that are associated with it. I myself like chickens. I mean, I wouldn't have one here, only because it's a city area, but if I was outside of the city where I had space,
Sure.
That wouldn't be a problem, but I don't know, some people have had them that you barely know that they had them until all of a sudden you kind of run, and I've had some chickens that came out, not this past summer, but I think early summer, where they all came running around, or during the fall, and I ended up catching them, and we put them in our garage and trying to find out where they were. But they were finally returned to their owner, and it's like, I don't know, I didn't think there was chickens allowed. I think that was some time ago.
We have a neighbor, down the street on Thompson Street that's had a rooster forever. And, but in their backyard, butts up against the, down by Zering Park, and, they have, I think the coop is back there, and it's actually outside the city limits.
Correct.
So, yeah. So, and, we do hear that rooster. I haven't heard of him recently, but yeah, he's pretty loud when he does crow, but,
Someone strangled it. I would like to suggest that we tighten up our documentation to make it clear that they're not allowed.
Well, if we let get it to the zoning board, let them tackle the issue, and then let them make a recommendation to the city council.
I'm sure they'll thank you for that.
And then I guess we would, once we cover that, we would need to address those that are in place now, what we allow, give them a period of time to get rid of them.
Is that the plan then? Go ahead and get it in the plan commission's hands and.
And I know that the people that want to get rid of them, there's other people outside of the city.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. The only other thing I have, I just want to remind everybody, the COVID-19 is still with us, as Hector well knows, and, the numbers seem to be, climbing a bit throughout the state. So I just want to remind everybody to continue to remain vigilant and wash your hands and wear your mask and social distance and stay home when you can. And, I'm looking forward to a healthy and vibrant 2021. So we can get to the new year. I'm hopeful. So, any old business tonight?
Mayor, if I could, on old business, I'm going to dovetail in if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, one of the things I did over the weekend was I was driving down the alley slowly in Princeton, and I covered about half the community. And again, when you drive down the alleys, it gives you kind of a benchmark of what's going on with some of our homes and how they're being maintained and the garages. And I was looking for those chicken coops to see who I could figure out was raising chickens. But in the process, I'm still reminded about the number of cars that are sitting up on blocks, or the tires are deflated and there's weeds around there. Cars that obviously the stickers haven't been on for years. And then there's a couple of residences that have 6-foot tall fences, and the stockade fences, their gates are open, and you look in the backyard as you're driving down the alley and say, oh my goodness, the stuff that is in those areas. Old demo derby car I saw up on blocks, and just a lot of trash and junk, and it's just embarrassing. So I would just ask, we got to continue to work on that. We got to continue to. I'm not after the person that their stickers, 2 months expired, even 6 months expired. I'm talking about the vehicles that have been sitting there for years. Because what we do is, as Jerry mentions about chickens and how he feels, and I appreciate that. If you were to stop and look at these homes that are in disrepair and their yards are a mess, you say to yourself, do I want to live next to that neighborhood and that neighbor? And it's just a little embarrassing. So somehow we need to work on our enforcement of that. And there's mattresses out in the alleys, and I know some people, maybe we set them up for sale, maybe they thought they were going to be getting the chance to throw those on the city trucks for cleanup, but a lot of mattresses still, a lot of sofas, and just, and that was in really North Vernon and those alleys over there, the alley off of North Euclid. You step onto that alley and go down that street, and it's just kind of discouraging. So I just want to say that we need to work on that, and if that means tightening up our current ordinances. But somewhere a couple years ago, we wrestled with the idea of not allowing furniture on porches. You remember that? We passed because we got tired of looking at sofas. So, I think we want to use a carrot to help these people out. But if that doesn't work, we're going to have to, eventually get out the hammer and work on them that way, because it's just embarrassing. Again, the question would be, If you get a chance, council members, drive down those alleys slow. I would say from Central going north of those alleys in that quadrant there from Main Street to Euclid's a good example. Just go slow and look, and it's just kind of a little bit embarrassing, that's all.
So are you saying, Ray, that if you have a car on your property, you must have current plates, or stickers and plates on them?
Well, here again,
That's what our code says.
Yeah.
and again, we're not, the first season's 3 months out, I'm not, but some of them you can just tell, you know, it's just, they've been there a long time, and the weeds are around them, things like that, so. Anyway, we just wanna keep things tidy.
And I know a lot of times, and I know that our patrol officers, when they're out and about, you know, I don't know how often they go down and, you know, look like in alleys and that, but maybe we can pick that up a little bit and, have them, you know, scope that out, 'cause, yeah, I agree, you know, you wanna keep our neighborhoods neat and tidy, 'cause obviously we, you know, we have a home shortage in Illinois, or in Princeton right now, we have you know, these houses are moving very fast, but you hate to see a house sit, you know, for sale because of, you know, a neighbor or a couple that aren't maintaining their properties, so, good point.
And the chickens didn't cause that problem.
No.
The owners of the chickens caused it.
Any other old business? Any new business? Public comment? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting and to convene an executive session.
Move that we adjourn our regular meeting this evening, convene an executive session under Illinois statute to discuss setting a price for the sale of property owned by the public body. Our next regular meeting will be Monday, November 2nd, 2020, 7 o'clock at City Hall.
Second.
Motion second, call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mavry.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Mayor Querem.
Aye, this meeting is adjourned, thank you all for attending.
I know you got lots going on. Hey, this won't be